Next on the docket is Collin A, represented by Attorney Sorokin.
Good morning to the board. Attorney Matthew Sorokin for Mr. Angione, who is present, coming in my conference room. Just close the door and sit down. Good morning. I'm Collin A. And just very briefly, my client's 39 years old. He's been out of trouble for over 6 years now. As I'm sure you saw from his application, he's engaged both in anger management and in parenting classes. And he's used those lessons to not only become a better individual, but to become a better father. And he's a devoted father. A partner at this point in his life is going to help him with his career. He has a specific interest to work for the federal government in the area of aquatic analytics, which is a specialized field that he's passionate about. And it would also help him be more involved in his children's activities. I think given the therapies he's engaged in, the lessons he's taken away, and what he's done for himself since then, he's an excellent candidate. With that, I'll turn things over to my client or the board with any questions.
Okay, Mr. Angione, please, you may explain to the board why you believe you are suitable for an absolute pardon. You may begin, sir.
Good morning. I would like to start off with thanking the board for the opportunity. I want to thank my attorney, Sorokin. This has been a long road to travel. I apologize to my victim and emotional torment that I may have caused over many years ago. I want to be known that I take full ownership of my actions. Before the incident, I was indicted after the loss of my first child at a young age. I kept my emotions inside, and during my rehabilitation program, I value the opportunity to meet others in similar situations. That granted me an understanding to know how to mature, not to allow myself to be placed in similar situations. I've learned it's okay to speak on trauma in order to heal and deal with grief. I know there is no excuse in my actions. Truly sorry for the pain I've caused. I've also taken parenting classes. During those classes, I was informed on how to deal with torment between two parents who cannot get along, especially with dealing with the children and keeping the family together for the children's sake. I know it was taught to continue to show support to our children in the home, even though that we won't be brought together. I've learned to keep all my personal matters and feelings to the side and continue to move forward in my life. And again, I thank the board for taking the opportunity to review my case today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Angione. We'll begin with Board Member Dargan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, Council. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, yourself. Good morning.
So your counsel talked about it too. So you participated in anger management counseling and family violence too, right? Was that through the court system? And can you talk a little bit about that? And it looked like also you had participate in court-ordered parenting classes. So
yes,
has that been of help to you?
Yes, it has. I'll start with the anger management. The anger management has taught me that it's okay to express yourselves in other ways of exploding or even with having a foul mouth. Just to understand that there's always multiple sides to an issue, whether it's not just myself, it could be the other person. And sometimes you just don't have to have the conversation at the moment. You might just have to cool down. I learned in parenting class, sometimes it's not appropriate to spank your child. There's other ways of development. I learned that in the parenting class as well, that we have an older thought of viewing things, and the child is just fresh in the world. They don't understand. So I learned different techniques and how to gauge my children to understand of my insight on things.
Okay, so it looks like there was two issues with assault, third, family violence when you're around 24 and then 32. Would that
Correct.
be an accurate assessment?
Correct. About 23. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And are you still continuing with any programming that you just talked about, or
No, sir.
you're through with that? Okay.
Yes,
And at the present time, you're working in the testing of water. Is that accurate?
I work with instruments that test the quality, so I calibrate them and I fix them, and I travel throughout the country doing it.
Okay. And you also do some work with security too?
Correct. That is correct.
So probably a pardon would be able to let you expand on that, right? Because are you certified through the state as a security personnel? Are
Yes,
you
sir. I'm
licensed to
licensed
do
in
that?
Connecticut.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you know you talked about employment and maybe the opportunity with a federal employment and what that will do. It looks like too that we might have some impact from Office of Victim Services too. So we look at the whole package, and I appreciate you having the conversation with me here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly. Ms. Chance?
So, Mr. Angione, when did you complete the parenting and anger management program?
Anger management, I believe it was in 2009, and the PEP was in 2017.
Okay, so you were between the ages of 24 and 32 years old when that occurred. You were between the ages of 24 and 32. I believe your assault wasn't that in 2008? And your assault was in 2017?
Correct. Yes, you got
Yeah.
2008. I was 22. Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And are you aware that you have a standing criminal protective order?
Yes, I am aware.
Okay. And do you know the reason why you have it?
No, ma'am, I do not. That was dealt with my attorney.
And you never asked for an explanation as to why you would have one?
No, ma'am, I was young. I had no idea of the law.
Wow. I'm a little bit disappointed, Mr. Angione. You sound like you're a well-educated person and you have a standing criminal restraining order and it's against your ex-wife. How's your relationship today?
I understand who was involved. I haven't spoken with her. I haven't seen her
Okay.
since I divorced in 2010, ma'am.
Right. So you know it's against her and that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does she feel the same way? And was that after your daughter died?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have no conversation with her today?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you are hoping that by getting this pardon today that you can move on in your job?
Not only in my job, but in my kid's school. Certain events I won't be able to show up to if you have a criminal record. And
How many children do you have now?
Excuse me, ma'am? Twin girls.
How old are they?
Will be 11 this Friday.
And they're with another mother, not
Right.
your ex-wife. And what's your relationship like with them? Do you live with them?
No, they live in a separate household, but they have a room in my home. There's just no difference. They just don't live in my house. Our relationship is open very well.
And you have a good relationship with the mother? What is
Yes.
that like?
That's correct. I'm actually picking my kids up today from school.
Okay. So you co-parent?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And she's in support of you getting this pardon today?
When I spoke to her about it, yes, ma'am.
So let me ask you this. What do you think was going on in your life? You know, you had these two incidents and they were quite a number of years apart. You know, they were like 8 years apart. So what do you think was going on? I know at 24, you're still young. Your brains is not fully developed, but what was going on at age 32?
32 was poor judgment on myself on parenting. The simple was that my daughter struck me. I struck her back. I know I made a mistake, and that's where the parenting classes taught me a lot. Maybe I could have put her on a timeout or chose to take something that she likes away. I reacted in the moment and I shouldn't have. I have no excuse for that at all.
And what was her mother's thoughts about that?
Her mother was there. Her mother wasn't happy. We've since talked about it. She understands from my Christian background that I was raised to discipline your child. We've spoken about it. We don't go into too much of detail. I have instructed my child since, excuse me, and that's where we've been at with it.
So you took the parenting class after that?
Correct.
Okay, and was that court ordered? Or
Yes, it was, ma'am.
Okay, so it was court ordered.
Yes, it was.
Okay, and what's your daughter's thoughts about that today?
What's my daughter's thoughts? I've never talked to her about the matter. We have a relationship. It's not to say it's never happened, but it doesn't come up.
And you think that's okay?
Do I
That
think,
it doesn't come up?
do I think
How
it's
old
okay?
was she?
Excuse me, ma'am, I can't hear you.
How old was your daughter?
She was about 5. We spoke about it one time. I have twins, so both my kids and my children's mother were present. They're both aware, and my daughter said, my other daughter hit daddy hit daughter back, and that was pretty much it. It was a reaction. She knows, just like in school, she's not allowed to put her hands on anybody because there's a reaction to things. So.
Okay, I guess that was my next question. Do you know of her hitting anyone else?
No, we don't. We don't allow that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering. Madam Chair, I'm all set.
At this point, we'll turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members. I do have one of the victims who is on that she would like to address the board, and as soon as she is done, I will be reading an impact statement. To the person who is on right now, this is your opportunity to unmute yourself. You can address the board, and you may begin now.
Hi, good morning. My name is Angie Rosario. I am the mother of Collin and twin daughters. Collin is very active in Paris life and involved in every parent meeting that is held at the school. Collin and I have twin girls, and he loves them both dearly. He's very caring and amazing role model to both Paris and London. And him and I work together to raise our twin daughters. And I agree for Collin to receive the pardon.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go and read now the statement. Good morning, Board of Pardons and Parole. I am a victim of the offender Collin R. Angioni, and I am totally against the pardon for said offender. I never felt the system took what happened to me by the hands of Mr. Angioni seriously. They minimized the horrific trauma that my then husband inflicted upon me. He was charged appropriately until his charges were lowered to a misdemeanor. There was nothing minor about what he did to me. I was naked. Collin judo kicked me all over my body. He hit me with objects, threw me all around our bedroom, and he inserted objects in my rectum. I told him he was hurting me. He didn't care, said I was his wife and he can do whatever he wanted to do to me. His mother heard the beating and tried to break into our apartment, and that's how the brutal attack came to an end. The court ordered Collin to get therapy, but he attacked another woman in 2017. And once again, they minimized the crime, so he hasn't been treated therapeutically to even consider a pardon. He will repeat said heinous acts again. He was already been shielded from the public knowledge of this horrific crime because it was minimized by the judicial system. There has to be accountability for crimes such as this. I cannot close my eyes and say I have no remembrance of this nightmare because it will always be part of my scars, my memory, the effect of all my relationships with the opposite sex. So it stops me from having and trying to have a relationship in fear of being brutalized by my supposed significant other. Please do the right thing this time. Stand up for the victims of Collin R. and Joni. Do not sweep us under the rug and close the door. We're not invincible, although we would like to be sometimes. But today I stand up for me and all the women who are victims like me. We are people and we're just as important as the next person. We need to be protected and hold these people accountable for their actions. I am lucky to be alive. He could have killed me. Enclosed is a copy of my lifetime restraining order against Collin R. and Joni. That's how horrific it was that the judge made said document permanent on January 27th, 2010. I never thought I would be discussing this matter again, certainly not for a dismissal after the minor charges he received was a bonus from the judicial system and a slap in my face and the victims for such crime. Thank you for listening to my darkest pain. I pray you will give me justice this time without excuses. We, all the victims, deserve for Collin R. and Joni to be held accountable. Truly yours, Cheryl Vaughn. Thank you, board members. That is all that I have.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Well, that was a pretty powerful statement. I want to say for the record that the assault third conviction in 2010, there is no official record that the board was able to review. We got basically a one-line statement in the application that certainly looks different than what the victim just provided to us. So, Mr. Dargan, your thoughts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, that was concerning what you just stated, because the assault third, the family violence when he was 24 and then 32. We as a board really look at, victim impact statements, and it's important in our deliberations. Although I think that he has shown some growth at this time, I can't vote in favor of the pardon. I had reasons number 6 and 14. And that's kind of where my thought process is right now.
All right. I do want to say that we did have a police report for the conviction in 2017, and it did involve a slap of his 4-year-old daughter, not an adult intimate partner relationship. Ms. Chance?
So I'm not in favor of a pardon today. You're just listening to the victim's statement and just going back and noticing the lack of information in the application was concerning. And the fact that he chose to extend his behavior to his 4 or 5-year-old daughter was concerning. So for me, I'm going to go along with Mr. Dargan to deny today.
Would those be the same reasons?
Yes.
There's obviously some discrepancy here in that, he got a suspended sentence with 3 years of conditional discharge, and yet the court issued a standing criminal protective order that is valid through the year 2099. In the matter of Collin R. Angioni, there is a motion to deny parole, to deny a pardon for the following reasons. The injury and impact to the victim and the victim's or the victim's family, and because you have a standing criminal protective order against you. Mr. Dargan?
Aye.
Ms. Chance?
Aye.
I am an aye as well, so the absolute pardon is denied.
Thank you for your time. Just wait for me. Okay.
And I just want to confirm, I believe you said those were numbers 6 and 12.
Well, talk about a powerful statement by the survivor. That was incredible. And I haven't seen a lot of these pardon cases, but the ones I've seen, they seem to be pretty lenient. I mean, it's totally different than what we're used to in Louisiana. The idea that someone's applying 6 years after their last offense, and man, good for her to get up there and make that statement, and stand up to what is simply unjust. I mean, to hear what he had done to her, this is a very, you can't just take programs and all of a sudden you don't have this tendencies. And it's just like, it really is nauseating hearing about these programs. It's like, okay, we're going to drop it so it's not a felony anymore for some reason. And it makes you wonder why, for what reason. How can that something like that, the way that the crime was described, and it's not like they thought she made it up. They gave a protective order, a lifetime protective order until 2099. So they know that he's dangerous, and what he did is absolutely terrifying. And who knows what would have happened if the mother didn't come in to stop it. But yet I don't understand. They don't prosecute it as a felony. He doesn't get prison time. It's like court-ordered programs. That's it. And I'll never understand the way this system works. That's all I can say. And then you find out that a bunch of years later, he goes and he hits his little daughter. And, the way that he described it is, well, I just hit her. I grew up in a Christian home. That's how we discipline people. And it's just like, when you hear the way that he described what he did to his then wife, you can only imagine how hard he must have hit his daughter for it to show up in the courts as a record. It just must have been absolutely traumatic. And he just writes it off as growing up in a Christian home. Okay, buddy. Okay, buddy. Can you imagine a little, a poor little thing? And she was 4 years old. I mean, it's just not something I can even understand. And then it's just 5 years and 6 months ago, he was arrested for this, and he's trying to get a pardon. And then something that Richard found, which is quite interesting, now is innocent until proven guilty and all that good stuff. But it was just a few months before this hearing that he was arrested in like a sting operation for what turns out to be, it looks like, violent kind of gang stuff. Now, again, it's innocent until proven guilty. We're not aware of any felonies, but I'll just read to you what it is that that Richard found that showed it up. And, this is all it is this one article. But off the hookah investigation leads to 9 arrests, and he was one of the people arrested. Investigators are looking into criminal activity in the area around a hookah lounge in Bridgeport, ended up arresting 9 people on various charges. Police said they obtained search warrants this month for off the hookah lounge business. They said that the area known around Colton Street and Barnum Avenue has plagued with violent crimes, which was included in homicide, aggravated assault, robbery, and shots fired. In May 2022, the Bridgeport Police Narcotics and Vice Division began an investigation into illegal sale of narcotics and alcohol at the lounge. And on Sunday around 3 a.m., investigators searched the lounge as well as vehicles. So this would have been like Saturday night party, right? When it's Sunday, it's now Saturday night into Sunday. associated with the establishment. When they arrived there, detectives and officers said they saw many people inside and outside the establishment wearing security uniforms, tactical vests, and holstered firearms. Identifiable security persons, patrons, owners with licensing agreements, and employees were detained. The 9 people arrested, and he's listed as one of the arrested. Now we get to look at some ridiculous ad. The face charges that range from providing security services without a license, criminal possession of a firearm. In addition, they found several bottles of alcohol, more than $3,500 in cash, 9mm semi-automatic ghost gun with a laser beam, and a high-capacity magazine were seized as a result of the investigation. I find it to be really funny when we compare like Connecticut crimes with Louisiana. Like, you would never read in Louisiana they raided a bar and found alcohol. You know, I mean, in Louisiana, it's like anyone can get an alcohol liquor license. In Connecticut, it's like, ooh, a hookah bar had a few bottles of alcohol. But you know, and then a high capacity magazine, also something you wouldn't see in Louisiana, spoken about, and a laser beam. But it is kind of odd, I guess, that they have, you know, all these. But again, who knows? You know, I guess they could have arrested anyone, and who knows, like, right? But that's not the main point. The main point is, of course, the viciousness of his crime, the redundancy of it, to have 2 like DV type crimes, and one against your wife who has a protective order against you now, and the way it was described, and then one against your little baby, and the way that he talks about both of them, it's just nauseating. I'm glad the board made quick work of it, but it is bizarre that someone could, in this state, apply less than 6 years after their most recent crime and get a hearing. I mean, it's just quite interesting to me. But thank you, Richard, for tying together the information. And with that, I'll let you go.